This is a 98-cent brown bottle of hydrogen peroxide, and it clears roaches, ants, and mice out of a house. You flipped the kitchen light on last night and watched them scatter. Roaches across the counter, ants along the baseboard, maybe a tail going behind the stove, and the exterminator wants $300 to come back out, for the 4th time this year. Add it up. A quarterly contract runs about $480 a year, every year, for as long as you own the house. Now, open the cabinet under the sink, the ant traps, the bait stations, the powders, the $42 citrus spray, $60 to $400 of half-used product. And come spring, the ants walk in through the same crack anyway. Now, I want you to sit with a number. Americans spent $6.5 billion on pest control last year, and 84% of homeowners still reported a pest problem inside the past 12 months. That is not a service. That is a subscription to a problem that never gets solved. The fix is that brown bottle. 3% hydrogen peroxide, the plain kind from any pharmacy shelf, under $1. One bottle, a quart spray bottle, and about an hour this Saturday, set against a bill that comes 4 times a year for the rest of your life. 20 different uses, and on roaches, the colony is gone in about 9 days. And later on I will tell you the part of this that ought to make you a little angry. My name is Wade Caudle, and no pest company truck has ever once come up my drive. I am going to tell you plainly what this does, and what it does not, because I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me. I will show you what the bottle is, why it works, and how to use it on every pest in the house you already own. And there is one thing about the timing of when you spray that decides whether any of this works at all. Most folks get it wrong. Try it once and quit. I will not let you make that mistake. Stay with me. Let me start with what most folks get wrong, because if you do not understand this part, none of the rest will hold. You do not need to poison the whole colony. You need to do 3 things, in order. Knock down what you can see, destroy the eggs and larvae the adults left behind, and erase the scent trails the survivors used to find their way through your house. 3% peroxide does all 3. It oxidizes the soft tissue of an insect on contact. It gets through egg casings and kills the next generation before it hatches. And it breaks down the pheromone trails that ants and roaches and mice all follow. So, roaches first, because that is what most of you saw on the counter last night. When you see a roach out in the open in the daytime, that is not one roach. That is the overflow of a colony living in your walls and under your appliances. For every one you see, there are 30 to 50 you do not. So you do not chase the ones you can see. You lay down something they walk through without knowing it. Mix 1 cup of 3% peroxide, 1 cup of water, and 1 level teaspoon of plain dish soap in a quart spray bottle. A cup is a regular coffee mug, filled to about an inch from the rim. The soap is the part people skip, and it is the part that matters. A roach's shell is waxy. Without soap, the peroxide beads up and rolls off. With soap, it sticks, it soaks in, and it shuts down the breathing holes along the sides of the body. The roach smothers in minutes. Spray every roach you see, directly. Then spray the seams behind the refrigerator, the gap between the stove and the counter, the hinge of the dishwasher door, the little weep holes in the back of the lower cabinets, and the underside of the sink trap. Those are the highways. Do it after dark, because that is when roaches travel, and do it again every 3 nights for 2 weeks. By night 9, you stop seeing them on the counter. By night 14, the egg cases they left in the dark corners have hatched, and the young ones have walked through what you laid down and died before they ever reached food. That is 1 bottle. That is $1. That is the job your $300 service call has been trying and failing to do. Now ants are where this gets genuinely strange. Years back, researchers ran a study where they fed ants a honey solution with peroxide mixed into it. Healthy ants would not touch it, but ants infected with a killing fungus went to it on purpose. They were dosing themselves, and it cut their death rate. What that tells you is that peroxide is already part of the chemical world an ant lives in. Their scent trail, that invisible road between the nest and your sugar bowl, is made of compounds that oxidize easy. When you spray the trail, you do not just kill the ants standing on it, you erase the map. Here is how you do it. When you can see the line of ants, do not break it up. Watch it. Find where it comes in and where it is going. Then mix equal parts peroxide and water, a cup of each in the quart bottle, and spray the whole length of the trail, from the entry crack to the food. Let it sit 10 minutes, wipe it with a clean cloth, and spray it once more. Once a day, 4 days. The nest outside keeps sending scouts, but every scout that walks your kitchen goes home with nothing. No trail, no signal, no instructions. Inside a week, the foraging line moves on to somebody else's house. Bed bugs are the pest everybody gets wrong. Folks throw out a good mattress, or pay a heat outfit $1,500, or set off foggers that drive the bugs deeper into the walls. None of it is needed if you will commit to 3 weeks. Strip the bed all the way down and take the mattress off the frame. Same mix as the roaches. 1 cup peroxide, 1 cup water. 1 level teaspoon of dish soap. Spray every seam of the mattress, both sides, every joint of the box spring, every screw hole and crack in the frame, and the baseboards within 6 feet of the bed, about 2 long steps in every direction. Let it dry all the way before you make the bed back up. Then do it again every 4 days for 3 weeks. The calendar matters more than the spray here. Bedbug eggs hatch in 6 to 10 days. Your first pass kills the adults. The eggs you missed hatch into young ones that crawl through your second pass. Their eggs walk into your third. By week 3, there is no generation left to carry it on. 1 spraying does nothing. 3 weeks ends it. My grandmother ran an iron bedstead her whole life for the same reason, mind you. Metal gives them nowhere to hide. Fleas run on the same principle with a different hand. If you have carpet and animals, the fleas on the dog are maybe 5% of what you have. The other 95% is eggs and larvae down in the carpet, in the cracks between floorboards, in the seams of the furniture. Vacuum first, and vacuum hard. Then mix 1 cup of peroxide, 3 cups of water, and 1 level tablespoon of dish soap. Mist the carpet, do not soak it. It should feel damp like morning grass, not wet like a spill. Work the baseboards, the edges of the room, and every spot the animal sleeps. Let it dry. Vacuum again the next day, and repeat once a week for 4 weeks. The peroxide gets into the casings the larvae seal themselves up in, and they die in there before they ever come out. Fungus gnats, those little black flies around the houseplants, are the easiest of the whole list. 1 part peroxide to 4 parts water, and water the plants with it instead of plain water. A 1/4 cup of peroxide to a cup of water does 1 good-sized pot. It fizzes when it hits the soil. That fizz is the peroxide killing the eggs and larvae in the top inch of dirt, and it puts a shot of oxygen down to roots that have likely been overwatered anyway. Every watering for 2 weeks, let the soil dry out more between, and the gnats collapse. Pantry moths get a different treatment. Empty the cabinet all the way out. Any open bag of flour, oats, rice, or cereal goes in the trash, because the larvae are in it whether you can see them or not. Spray the bare shelves with the peroxide straight from the bottle, no mixing, and hit the corners and the underside of the shelf above. 15 minutes, wipe dry. Then everything goes back in glass jars with sealed lids. A moth cannot lay an egg in glass. That is 6 pests down 1 bottle, and not $1 of product used yet. But the next part is for every one of you sitting in a house you bought in 1987 or 1995 or 2003, because your house has the cracks it has, and I am going to show you where the pests are walking in, 1 hole at a time. And that timing point I promised you, the one that separates the folks this works for from the folks who quit, that is still coming. Do not go anywhere. Start at the dryer vent. because mice come in through the dryer vent more than any other single spot on an American house. The flap that is supposed to keep them out warps inside a few years. Go outside and look at yours. If you can lift that flap with one finger, a mouse can lift it with its nose. Mix a strong batch, 2 parts peroxide to 1 part water, with a level tablespoon of dish soap for every cup. Soak a wad of steel wool about the size of a golf ball and pack it loose into the gap around the vent pipe where it comes through the wall. The steel stops the mouse. The peroxide kills the scent trail that told it to come there, and any mouse that tries to chew through gets an experience it does not repeat. Then walk the basement and do the same at every pipe coming through the foundation, where the water main comes in, the gas line, the cable and the electric service. There is a gap around every one of them, and every gap is a mouse highway. Soaked steel wool, pressed in firm. It holds for years. Basement window wells next. An old well fills up with leaves and dirt and turns into a boarding house for sow bugs, earwigs, and centipedes. Empty it out, then spray the inside of the well, the frame, and the gap between the frame and the foundation with the peroxide straight. What you are really killing is the rotting leaf film, because that film is what those bugs came to eat. The garage door is the biggest insect door on most houses. The rubber sweep along the bottom warps in the heat, and by year 7 there are gaps a ½ inch wide, about the thickness of your finger, that you can see daylight through. Spray the whole length of that gap, and the concrete under it, once a week for a month. Next morning you will find dead crickets and pill bugs and ants along the line. The spray does not close the gap, but it turns it into a crossing. Most of them do not survive. Garbage and recycling bins, because half your indoor problems start out there. The film of food and sugar inside the bin is a free supper, advertised to every pest in the neighborhood. Once a week, rinse the bin. Spray the inside with the strong 2-to-1 batch. Let it sit 10 minutes, wipe it out. And if you ever lift the lid on a mess of maggots at the bottom, hit them with the peroxide straight from the bottle. Minutes, and it is done. Last one inside the house, the drains. Drain flies, those little fuzzy ones around the sink. Breed in the slime coat inside your pipes. Pour 1 cup of peroxide straight down the drain at night and let it sit until morning. It eats the film. The film is what the larvae eat, and no film means no flies. Once a month and you never see another one. Now let me get to why you have never heard any of this, because it is not an accident and it is not a conspiracy either. It is arithmetic. There was a time when the government mailed free farm bulletins to any household that asked, and plain treatments like these were the kind of thing they carried. My grandmother never needed the mail. Her spray recipe was older than the house, handed down the same as the garden and the cellar. But around 50 years back, the printing of that kind of plain knowledge dried up, and about the same time the pest control business was getting licensing laws passed in the states, so only a licensed man could apply commercial pesticide to a structure. Here is the part to hold on to. Peroxide is not a registered pesticide. It is exempt. Anybody anywhere can use it, no license, no permit. And here is the motive, plain as a bill on the kitchen table. Pesticide compounds can be patented. Hydrogen peroxide cannot. You cannot build a $6.5 billion service business on a molecule that costs 98 cents at the dollar store and takes 15 minutes to apply. So the 98-cent answer got quiet, and the $480 answer bought the advertising. That is not a scheme. That is arithmetic. Before I hand you the formula, there are 4 things that separate the folks who clear a 20-year infestation in 3 weeks from the folks who try this once and give up. First, concentration. The brown bottle is 3%, and 3% is what every technique here is built on. You do not want the 35% food grade, and you do not want the 12% salon developer. Stronger bleaches fabric, marks surfaces, and on the ant trail it kills the scout on the spot, which ruins the whole delayed mechanism. 3%. The dollar bottle, That is it. Second, freshness. Peroxide starts breaking down the day it meets light, heat, or air. That is the whole reason the bottle is brown. The dark plastic keeps the light off it. A bottle that has sat open under the bathroom sink for 2 years may be plain water by now. There is an old test for it, and it still works. Pour a splash in the sink. If it fizzes hard against the porcelain, it is live. If it just lays there like tap water, throw it out and buy fresh, $1. That is the price of knowing. Third, and this is the one I promised you at the top, timing. Roaches feed at night. Mice run between dusk and about 2 in the morning. Ants send their heaviest scouts in the first 3 hours after sunset in warm months, and the first 3 hours after sunrise when it turns cool. Spray at noon because that is when you have time, and you are working against the animal's whole clock. Spray at dusk. If it is bad, spray again at dawn. My grandmother said you treat the house when the house is awake to the pests, not when you are awake to yourself. That is not a saying. That is 60 years of watching. Fourth, the one almost nobody talks about, and the reason the professionals fail too. Pests do not live in your house. They live in the gaps. The wall voids, the space behind the dishwasher, under the refrigerator coils, inside the hollow legs of the kitchen island. Spray the surfaces, and you are treating maybe 15% of where they actually are. The answer is a pump, set to its finest setting, because a fine mist drifts into the voids and settles in the cracks where the egg cases are glued. A spray bottle hits surfaces. A fine mist hits the architecture. The old-timers worked that out without ever naming it. One rule before the mixing starts, and it is the only rule. Never put peroxide together with bleach, with ammonia, or with any chlorine cleaner. The old farmhouse way of saying it was, peroxide goes with kitchen things, not with laundry room things. If it lives by the detergent, it does not go near the brown bottle. If it lives by the flour, it likely does. Hold to that one sentence, and every mix in this video is as gentle as dishwater. Now let me run the whole formula by you one time, slow, so you can write it down. This is the general spray, the one that covers near about everything. The one that sat in a quart jar on my grandmother's shelf, with a paper tag tied on with twine. 2 cups of 3% hydrogen peroxide. That is most of 1 brown bottle. 1 cup of warm water, warm like bath water, not hot. 1 level tablespoon of plain dish soap or castile soap. 1 level tablespoon of white table salt. 15 drops of clove oil. And if you want the batch to keep its strength, 1 level teaspoon of cream of tartar out of the baking aisle. All of it into a 1-quart spray bottle. Shake it before every use. Keep it in a cool cabinet out of the sun, and mix a fresh batch every 30 days, because the peroxide fades. Here is what each part is doing. The peroxide oxidizes the insect and kills the eggs and the trails. The water thins it so it will not mark your finishes. The soap cuts the wax on the shell so the spray soaks in instead of rolling off. The salt dries out anything soft-bodied and stays behind as a barrier after the peroxide is long gone, which stretches the killing window from minutes to days. The clove oil carries a compound that is a contact poison to an insect and near about nothing to you, and the cream of tartar is a mild acid that holds the peroxide steady and keeps the salt from clumping, so the spray dries even. 3 ways to use it. Anything you can see, spray it wet, wait 15 minutes, wipe. Entry points and travel routes, the thresholds, the baseboards, the dryer vent, the pipe gaps, once a week for the first month, then once a month after. And for the nests you cannot reach, under the refrigerator, behind the stove, in the cracks of a bed frame, soak a cotton ball, set it in the void, and leave it to work for a week. The whole quart costs about $1.20 to make. The store version of that coverage runs $12 to $35 and is gone in 1 use. This batch does the whole house for a month. So here is where you stand by Sunday evening. The trail through the kitchen is erased, the dryer vent is packed, the drains are clean, and there is a quart jar on your shelf that cost you about $1.20 and does the work of a $480 a year contract, once, for good. Tell me one thing in the comments. Which pest made you click on this tonight? Roaches, ants, mice, bedbugs, fleas, name it. I read every one, and the one that shows up the most is the one I build the next full video around. Now, the next video is about a single spice off the baking aisle that cleared a whole rat invasion out of a root cellar, 2 hollows over from me, in 14 days. No snap traps, no bait boxes, and nobody in that house ever saw a dead rodent. It costs about $3 at any grocery in America. You almost surely have it in your cabinet right now, and the reason it works comes down to one thing a rat's body cannot do. I will explain the whole of it then. Take care of what you have got, and it will take care of you. I will see you next time.